But we're going to start off with the fact that the Clone Wars was officially announced for its ending on March 11th, which was last week on Monday, and
guys, Star Wars The Clone Wars, the final season has officially launched. I just watched it starting at 3:30 in the morning before a buddy of mine, and I finally found a link that worked to see it on Disney Plus, and oh my god. Just having watched the first episode of a new season of Star Wars The Clone Wars for the last time, it's now 4 o'clock in the morning. That was surreal. It's all so new now, so different. The animation so different with how much time has now passed. But it's also like no time has passed at all for the clones as we're introduced to the Bad Batch. I myself never saw the Bad Batch animatics. I think I did once. It must have been in 2014 because I know the general plot. I know the major beats of the arc. But I never really watched it through myself. I don't know what's different and what's been changed. But seeing the clones together on an axis, performing a mission with the Bad Batch, as a Clone Wars fan, I just notice all the differences in how D. Bradley Baker has changed. They sound the same, Rex and Cody now, but it's different. It's just crazy to hear new dialogue from him. It's Kevin Kiner bringing it once again. It was crazy because I just spoke to him with Corey from Kessel Run Transmissions, and that was amazing. But different things I noticed, like the sound design is different. The sound of the DC-17 pistol is new now. The Commando Blaster is new. The models for the droid commandos, the super battle droids, and the regular battle droids are all new now. I thought that was fantastic, guys, and it's just part 1 of 4. I wanted to get my quick thoughts out there, regardless of how these videos turn out or whatever. I'm recording and documenting this experience for the next 12 weeks, enjoying the final season of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Let me know what your initial reactions were down in the comments. I'm going to talk to my buddy Corey before I pass out. And good night. Alright, Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 2, A Distant Echo. Already on the second week of this 12-week ride for the final season, and as much as I enjoyed the initial kickstarting episode of Season 7, The Bad Batch, I thoroughly enjoyed Episode 2, A Distant Echo, much, much more for a variety of reasons. There were just about 3 or 4 major standout moments for me. So of course, spoilers for the episode for Season 7, Episode 2. This is of course the episode where by the end of it, Echo returns and they find him and confirm he's alive. But in the build up to that, especially the very first scene where Anakin is initially talking to Hunter, and then they're trying to communicate that they need to go do something. Anakin needs to go do something, and they're trying to hide it from Hunter, and they're not doing a very good job, and it's just really hilarious. The exact type of thing that friends do, basically, and it's so cool to see that kind of dynamic and that kind of moment being shared by Anakin and Rex. It really feels like we're back with these characters, and I love these characters so much. I love this series so much. It's meant so much to me, and just having those moments that really weren't always there in the initial run of the series, those personal moments, those kind of slightly comedic moments, I think is valuable now that they really are brothers, Anakin and Rex, by the end of the war. And so he goes into the secret room and talks to Padme about being in the Outer Rim sieges, and you just know that we're right before Revenge of the Sith now. He's talking about the Outer Rim sieges. Padme is showing, but he's not really noticing just yet. I mean, it's crazy, and they're trying to hide it from Obi-Wan. I mean, Rex trying to feed Obi-Wan excuses. It's hilarious, and then by the time Anakin finally comes out and tosses Rex's helmet back, Obi-Wan's like, "Well, I hope you said hello to Padme for me," and Anakin just gives Obi-Wan this look. Obi-Wan knows, and Yeah, it was great. I mean, and then as they finally depart for Skako Minor, you've got just so many great moments. First of all, the environment, the animation is incredible. Dealing with the locals and the natives was a ton of fun, and that was something that I really don't think you get a lot of in the initial run of this series, are just the clones dealing with locals, dealing with natives, primitives, and of course the Umbarans notwithstanding. I just mean the type that we see in this episode, and it was just very, very cool. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and especially the confrontation between Rex and the Bad Batch as they question him, as they condescend Rex about Echo, and basically just make him feel like crap for even thinking that Echo might be alive, and that this is basically a ghost hunt. And oh man, Rex just ready to fight the entire Bad Batch. I mean, Wrecker literally picks him up at one point, and Rex does not care and just says, "You'll be a lot smaller by the time I'm through with you." I mean, just a fantastic scene. Anakin having to break it up and have a personal, quick discussion with Rex about the possibility of Echo really being alive, and Anakin just having to trust Rex as Padme told him to. I mean, there's just so much there, so much with these characters that we really didn't have a lot of time for in the initial run of the series, and I enjoy it quite a lot, man. It was great. The sequences as they finally get to the Techno Union facility on Skako Minor, and they're infiltrating it with these really interesting new droids, and they're only getting Echo signal intermittently, so they're just checking door to door, and you just have all these great sequences, and then the communication with Wat Tambor and his new character model, and just everything was just so great. And I will be honest, I noticed that the animation almost seemed slightly unrefined, like it didn't look quite where it needed to be with the first episode, almost like it was just kind of a developmental episode, if that makes sense. I know it might just sound like I'm just speaking nonsense at this point, but I noticed the animation was just completely sound this episode, whereas in the Bad Batch I was kind of noticing the lighting looking a little weird at times. I was noticing, it was kind of difficult to make out detail on the clones' faces, and it was a little oversaturated at times, and just different things like that. I didn't get any of that with this episode at all. It looked perfect, just like as it used to, and just better. And I love the Distant Echo. I thought it was great, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how this all unfolds. And this is kind of a story that I'd like to share really quick as well. I'll just never forget when the day the Clone Wars was canceled, and we were getting statements from Kathleen Kennedy about looking into a new era of programming for Star Wars, or whatever she said, and Dave Filoni saying it's time to unwind and it's time for the Clone Wars to wind down. And at the end of that announcement was Dave's sketch of Echo alive in his new armor, and it was incredible, but so bittersweet, because we knew that was an episode we would never see. We would never actually see that happen on screen, and it was exciting, but so depressing. And now to be here, it's pretty cool. And this is a custom from Clone Army Customs, a custom Lego ARC Trooper Echo based on that sketch given to us by Dave Filoni and all the other fan art that was coming out around the time when the Clone Wars was canceled. And to be here and see that scene animated where Echo is just being used by Wat Tambor as just a vessel for algorithms to run through his mind and just pull things from his mind. It was terrifying, but at the same time there was something so warm about it, and so reassuring about Echo being alive, because Rex hasn't lost everyone, and I think that's cool, and it makes me hope that Echo doesn't die. But considering it's just Rex, Wolf, and Gregor on that ATTE in Rebels, things are not looking good for Jesse, obviously, or Echo. And I hope we get to see what actually happens to Echo by the end of this final season. We'll see. Maybe he'll be on Mandalore. That being said, guys, thank you for hanging out with me to talk Star Wars The Clone Wars. I cannot wait to make my custom minifigures. Can't wait to get started on Ahsoka and Maul for this final season, and everything in between with custom Jesse and Ahsoka clones from AV Figures, and just so much to look forward to with these final 10 weeks now. And this is just still so surreal, and it was just, again, it just continues to feel like a dream. And This is just all so cool. I'll see you guys next week. All right, take care. We're already at Season 7, Episode 3, The Wings on Caradox, or On the Wings of Caradox. This episode was really good. It was basically the Echo extraction episode that we all thought it was going to be, and it was 16 minutes, which is, I think, possibly the shortest episode of the Clone Wars that there's ever been. That's my new best friend, by the way, Ahsoka, just hanging out back there. And there haven't been Clone Wars stand-ups in like 7 or 8 years, so it's pretty cool that that's a thing now. And I figure it looks better having that back there than just a door. However, back on topic, this entire episode was really good. I mean, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the escape from the Techno-Union facility. I loved the droid that Wat Tambor tried to use and sending into that room. I loved the entire escape going up through the vents, out the corridors, and then out onto the pipelines, and you know, just the Bad Batch and Tech calling those reptilian creatures back while they're being boxed in and then flying off, and the big sequence with Rex and kind of standing up to the head villager that they go back to, because they go back to those villagers on Skako Minor, and they're like, you brought the war to us, and then Rex basically has to very quickly give them the rundown of how evil the Separatists are and the Techno-Union, and how they're deceptive and claiming neutrality when look what they do, look at the Separatists, they're capable of doing to our friend Echo. And it really kind of dawned on me finally this episode, Echo is alive. It was one thing to have Rex constantly saying it, chasing, you know, the idea that Echo is alive until they finally find him at the end of the second episode. But it was when Anakin just so casually says, I'm going to go check on Echo, that it really hit me in this episode that Echo is alive, he's back, and it was fantastic. Echo was great. I mean, getting so much more added to his character now after this horror that he's experienced. And the final fight was amazing. I love the Octopar droids and seeing them again with this new paint job, this new weapon. I don't know what kind of this, I don't know what this pinkish purple laser is that Wat Tambor and Techno-Union are using with this special droid they try to use in the beginning. Then you see similar laser color on the Octopar droids later on in the final fight at the village, and hearing the Octopar droids firing again, just, I mean, I swear I got Christoph's flashbacks, and it was great. But yeah, I love this. I loved it. I think there was a huge missed opportunity at the end when Echo is talking about just like the old days with Rex, and things are going to be just like the old days, and there was a huge opportunity there to be like, speaking of which, where's Fives? Is he alive? How is my best friend? Does he know I'm alive? Does he know you guys came looking for me? And it doesn't even come up at all, which I think is strange. That would have definitely been the opportunity to give Echo the rundown for what happened to Fives. And it would have been a lot to take in, though. But I think if at least you had a moment where he's like, hey, speaking of which, where's Fives? And then Rex kind of puts his hand on Echo's shoulder and says, we'll talk about it, or just anything. Literally anything would have been great, but the Clone Wars has kind of had a history with that, of like major characters dying or a great tragedy befalling any of these characters, and then they just kind of move on, and you don't really get to see them grieve, and it's never really brought up again. And I thought it was a kind of a shame here that it doesn't appear that any sort of mention of what happened to Fives is going to make its way into this final arc with Echo, where he's back and alive again. You'd think that would be very relevant and important, but that's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It is just certainly very strange that was not added in. Either way, love this. Was it a little short? I guess. I didn't notice. I really enjoyed the Echo extraction mission episode off of Skako Minor, and I'm looking forward to this final episode of the arc coming up, where Echo is going to don a new set of armor, and they're going to deal with Admiral Trench once and for all, and we're going to be coming up on the end of this third to last arc for Star Wars of the Clone Wars. I knew this was going to start flying by fast, but I really enjoyed this week's episode. It was a really good third episode. I'm looking forward to next week, and I will see you guys next time. All right. Take care, everybody. I don't know why. I don't know why I do these things. I really don't. We've already made it to the end of the Bad Batch arc for Star Wars The Clone Wars, the final season, Season 7, Episode 4, Unfinished Business. And this is the finale episode of the Bad Batch story arc. So as you can expect, it is the best it's just the complete package. This episode was just pure Clone Wars and just so great to watch. I mean, you have everything in this episode. The story is really great. The suspicions with Echo is really great. The tactics and strategy changes with Echo and Trench that are taking place, not knowing who is going to come out on top, if Echo is compromised by the CIS or not, and just everything in between with all of the other major Clone Wars elements that are in this episode. In one episode, you have Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Mace Windu all active on an axis with the 501st, the 212th, and the 91st, ARC Trooper Jesse, and all of these gunships and Y-Wings cruising in from Venators, just like classic Clone Wars. And with the new animation, it looked phenomenal, and having the Bad Batch and two of their best sequences in the entire story arc, especially with Wrecker and also with, I believe, Crosshair, still getting the Bad Batch names straight. However, there are just all these character moments that continued into this episode as well that you just really didn't get a lot of in the original run of the Clone Wars. I kept saying this throughout the Bad Batch arc, but there's a moment where Mace Windu swoops in, lands on this crate in front of an army of B1s and B2s, regular battle droids and supers, and he just explains to them who he is, how many droids he's taken out in the Clone Wars, and that they should all surrender to be repurposed, and he's trying to appeal to their logic. And they just say, blast him anyway, and Windu's just looking at him, Obi-Wan's looking at Windu, visibly confused, and just all these great moments. The entire episode is just pure Clone Wars, and the animation is just stunning the whole way through. I mean, this was just an absolute joy to watch. This is, not the most complex narrative the Clone Wars has ever seen, but it doesn't need to be. It's just pure Clone Wars. It has everything you could want out of a singular Clone Wars episode. It's like this episode for me really represents the Clone Wars in its more simplistic, natural form, right? The conflict of the Republic versus the CIS and Anakin's fall to the dark side, right? Those three things are generally what the Clone Wars are supposed to be about. And of course, the series always had time to get into the more complex themes and complex elements and bounty hunters and other deeper storylines, whether that be on war or the contradictions of the Jedi and the manipulation of Palpatine and his grand design, moving them into this position, and all those more complex elements are not present in this episode per se, apart from one really great moment with Anakin. But this to me was just pure Clone Wars. Without all of that, it is just the Jedi and the Republic and the Clone Army versus the Separatists, in a really engaging, fun episode full of character that I thought really wrapped up the Bad Batch arc in a meaningful way and gave us what we were looking for out of the limited screen time we were getting with Mace Windu and even Obi-Wan. I'd say this is some of the best screen time Mace Windu has ever had in the Clone Wars. I just really enjoyed his scenes. But Anakin, most of all, I would say this episode featured the most dark scene that I think Anakin's had in the Clone Wars, really. There have only been one or two scenes like what we see by the end of this episode when he takes out Trench, and it's brutal. He is straight up using the dark side. It's wild. The entire episode is wild. Just hats off to everybody involved. Everybody at Lucas Animation. I'm going to miss the Bad Batch. I'm going to miss Echo. And I'm going to miss these characters. But this was amazing. The Bad Batch arc was great. Thanks everybody for watching. And next week, we get to see Ahsoka again. Back in the Clone Wars era. Down in the underworld of Coruscant. I can't wait. I'm going to get started on my custom Lego version of her right now. And I will catch you guys next week. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.